So today I'm going to tackle a daisy, a nice simple daisy. This is part of a beginner's series of tutorials. I'm using miniature postcards, so I am using sea white postcards. I'll pop a link in the description if you're interested in those. And I'm using a pan set. This is a Cotman pan set. So I'm just utilising the colours that I have. So today I'm going to start with a round number 6. And I'm going to come on with some cadmium yellow. So we're going to get the daisy in first. So I'm just dipping in to the paint. I've loaded the brush up so it's quite fluid, and I'm making a nice centre for the daisy. I want something a little bit darker, so if I pop into this, I've not rinsed my brush in between. This is a bit of alizarin crimson. I'm just going to dot some of that in to start to create a little bit of shadow. You can see that it's running up. I've rinsed my brush out and then I'm dabbing it off on a little bit of kitchen towel. What I'm going to do is pull out a little bit of this colour. So this is going to start to form the daisy petals. It's easier for you to see the darker ones. You can see that I'm curving that round. Daisy's going to be on its side, it's not fully up, so these ones are going to come out a little bit at a different angle. You can see now that daisy shape is starting to appear. So rinse my brush out again and dab it off. I'm going to put a little bit more of the yellow in. And now it's got somewhere to run a little bit. Just adding that little bit more yellow just at that bottom section, and then you're getting that light further up. I've now got a round number 10. So what I'm going to start to do, I'm going to keep this with a little bit of colour so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to start to bring in some petals. So I'm going to keep my brush nice and wet. Lots and lots of water, and I'm dipping into this cerulean blue. What I want you to see is how I'm creating these petals by using the wet of the watercolour. So I might normally do this without the colour, but I just want you to be able to see this on the camera. And if you're nice and fluid, you'll be fine. It's just keeping it nice and wet. You don't want it to get too dry too quickly. So see there, I've got that lovely daisy shape now. Now I can just wet the other side of the daisy. So this is now going to form a nice daisy shape for me. I'm going to swap back down to my round number 6 now. We're going to start to accentuate this a little bit more. So I'm going to dip into the cerulean blue. So this is now we're creating a nice wet in wet background to bring out the flower. So with the cerulean blue, I'm just dipping in, and I can neaten up my lines and make some little marks. So I'm just getting neater edges, nicer shapes. It's sometimes harder with a bigger brush to get the right shape in there. So the number 6 is a nice manageable one at this size. If you wanted to go smaller, you could do. I tried to only, on these ones, to only use 2 brushes and to only use these pan colours. So I'm a big believer in all the years of teaching that it's good for you to get to know how to use a couple of brushes and the paints that you have before you expand your knowledge. So if you don't have these colours, just choose a colour that's similar and have a go. So that's a little bit of the blue. I'm going to carry on with a little bit the alizarin crimsons. We're going to bring some of that in. So we're creating a different blend now. We want different colours in there. With the wet in wet wash, you do need to move fairly quickly. You can't dawdle as it starts to dry. There's no sort of fiddling time. You'll just end up with watermarks. So you've got to be fairly committed and get on with it. As I say to my students, chat and paint. Don't just chat. You've got to do both to get it on. So I'm just blending it through really so that I'm getting a nice effect. Then I want something a little bit darker, so it's going to make that daisy pop. So if I take a little bit of burnt umber and a little bit of alizarin crimson and a little bit, I'm trying to make a sort of aubergine colour, it's one of my favourite colours for dark, a little bit of a blue, that's ultramarine blue. So brown, blue and a red will make a nice aubergine colour. Then what you do is you're just going to pop some of this in. And this is just going to help, especially in this foreground section, this daisy just pop out. It'll sort of shoot forwards just from having that little bit of dark added in. You can add a little bit towards the corner. It is starting to dry now, so that's a sign to stop really. Okay, so I'm going to dry that one off. Okay, so that's nicely dry now. I'm going to load my brush up with a little bit of water and just dip lightly into the cerulean blue. So I've got a direction of light naturally coming this way, so I just want to add a little bit of shadow. White isn't always white, but you just need this to be really diluted. So this is just a tiny bit of cerulean blue. Basically on a watery brush. And I'm just moving that around to create a little bit of shadow on each of the petals. Just make it look more natural. Over that side I can leave them purely white. If I come back into the cadmium yellow, I can build up a little bit. I'm just dotting in a little bit more detail in that centre and then dip into the alizarin. Get a little bit more, just the dabbing motion, just get a little bit more colour within that centre. If I want a little stem, then I'm just going to wet my brush and go into a green. If you haven't got a green, you can make it with yellow and blue. And we'll just pop a little stem in just here. I can have a few wispy bits coming up if I want to. So this is just the green again. And my number 6 brush going on to dry. So I'm just dipping in, creating some wispy bits. Just to add a little bit more. Okay, I'll dry that off. Okay, so that's nicely dry, and then thought, well, just to finish this off, I thought I'd show you how I splatter or throw the paint a little bit. So if I just do that, because you'll be quite new to this, just going to cover up your daisy. I'm going to load my brush with water. We're just going to try it with a little bit of yellow. So this is cadmium yellow on a round number 6. You want fully loaded, loads of water. Then you're going to hold your finger out and you're going to hit your finger. Keep it quite close to your work. You'll see them nice splatters happening. We'll do it with a couple of colours. We're just covering up the daisy so that it doesn't go all over the daisy. If you keep it close, you won't go all up the wall. Well, I can't guarantee that actually. I've got splatters up my wall. And then I'm going to load the cerulean blue the same. So we're using a couple of colours we've already used in the picture. Hit my finger. Just get a nice little bit of splattering. Okay, and then when you're done, you can take that away and you've got a nice clean daisy still. So there we go, we've got a nice simple daisy flower, no drawing required, just a couple of colours, a couple of brushes, and a nice simple step-by-step technique. If you've enjoyed it, please do like, subscribe and share, and let me know in the comments. I'll pop another video just here for you of the beginners, absolute beginners series, and I shall see you next time.